Hi, Linda. How you doing? It's Christian.
Oh, okay. How are you today?
Good, good, good. Um,
Good.
I just wanted to take the time to call you and just go over a few things with you because I actually had the opportunity to go out there. I saw the property in person, and I just had to get back to the drawing board with this property because I know you're expecting us to submit an EDM deposit this week, and one of my main jobs is to make sure that our numbers are accurate. And one thing that I know is that Alex didn't have a chance to actually walk the property, so he kind of just, you know, gave he gave you an offer, and we're close. And I just kind of wanted to, you know, revisit these things, and I'm going to tell you why and where I need to be at. I need to be at 50,000, and the reason is because when I went to the property, there's a few issues that $8,000 makes a huge difference of potential worms in the wall, can of worms in the wall, so to speak. Some of the things that I saw, yes, I like the floors, that's nice and all, but the roof does need to be replaced. But further than just the roof, is I noticed that there are some decayed wooded ceiling areas, and I'm curious if it's running just in that corner piece of the room or if it's running in more places of throughout the house, because there are small cracks and yellow stains that go throughout. And I'm willing to take that question mark, but again, it's just one of those question marks that's like, another thing that I saw was the foundation. In some of the areas of the house, there's a little bit of like, you feel a little like lightheaded. You feel a little like it's off, And then if you see the cracks on the wall, they're not that bad. Nothing that I'm afraid of dealing with, but I know it's something that's going to require attention and mediation. Um, so that's another one of those question marks of dealing with 100-year-old properties that we get and we have to renovate. Um, Another thing was the termite issue. I know I'm gonna have to tent the house for a fact, and sometimes these termite companies in Jacksonville, they're booked out for like a month and a half in advance, and at times we could be fully done with a rehab before we're even scheduled for our termite mediation, and that alone runs us about $3,500 because they have to tent the whole house and leave it there tented for a couple of days. Um, we have a lot of windows, um, some of which I'm gonna leave alone. I like the historic look, but some of them I'd have to replace to come up to code for new FHA loans and guidelines and things like that. But we're not too far off, and I really hope this doesn't kill the deal. Um, because we want to be able to close with you before the end of the month. And what I'm promising to deliver is $500 EDM. I know Alex discussed $1,000, but what has to happen in the terms of just picking up a property, we have to run title search. That's like 350. We have to go ahead and order inspections. We have to go ahead and after we submit the EDM, it doesn't matter what the inspection finds. We're not going to come back and renegotiate, because now that I've done my physical walkthrough, that's the gamble we take. Once we go ahead and put up our EDM, okay, you know what? We already put our money where our mouth is. Um, there's no crossing back, because at that point I would lose my $500 EDM deposit, and you'd get to sell the property to somebody else. Um, but yeah, Linda, I really hope that this doesn't kill the deal, because we're like right there. I hope that you understand some of the points that I'm bringing up, that they're not like over exaggerated, and I hope you see that they're accurate. Um, I personally fixed the house across the street, and I didn't have as much termite damage to deal with. It was a 100-year-old house, but this one has more of the dry rotted wood look that I'd have to really pay attention immediate. And then the soffit areas have no breathers, so I'd have to completely do new soffit with breathable holes for the roof so it can ventilate properly, and I wouldn't have that damp moisture sitting in the ceiling that would cause, decay quicker to happen. So there's just a couple of things that I have to do to a 100-year-old house that I'm glad I don't have to touch the floors that much. I'm glad, the walls aren't as bad as other properties I've been to. I'm glad there's a lot of positive features that still has me wanting to be a player. Very close to what we already have this under contract for, but I know you're expecting this deposit, but I just wanted to touch two subjects, and which one was the purchase price and the other one was the EDM deposit. And that's, again, because alone, before even purchasing this property, in inspections and title search, we're probably going to have about $1,500, $2,000 invested before we even close. And we want to just try to use as much of that money towards the actual things we have to do to get the deal closed versus sitting there in case we back out. I know at 50 grand, $500 EDM, I can have that delivered to the title company tomorrow. Worst case scenario, 48 hours, and you'll get an EDM verification that that's set in place. And all we would need to do is draw up an addendum. An addendum is one page. It's signed between the seller and the buyer, stating, hey, we have an original purchase agreement, but these are the changes that we're both willing to undertake. So that way we don't have to go through a whole nother 13 pages on a contract. And I just wanted to bring these things up. But I mean, we're still, we still want to play ball with you. It's just, there's a few things that I know Alex didn't see. One, he wasn't there in person. Two, it's just the experience from my end that I know what we're going to face. I personally slept in these houses before, renovating them, having to babysit the people. Getting good people to work in Jacksonville is hard. There's a lot of BS people that work in Jacksonville, and getting the good ones, they tend to be booked out for a while, so it tends to stretch out the renovation time, cost of holding the money time. You can imagine the things we go through. You're a homeowner there for some odd years. You know how it goes in Jacksonville.
That's what I told you when you asked me why didn't I rent it out.
Right. I know. Trust me, I've dealt with all types of people in Jacksonville.
And another thing is, when I got there, I hadn't been to the house in a while, and the pictures that I took between that time, the first of the year, and now, and they did indicate that there's been a lot of rain.
Yeah.
But I think more so of what you're seeing is basically from that tree.
Yeah, no, I can so agree with you. The only thing is that, as you know, humidity and moisture tends to spread quickly, especially with 100-year-old wood, because that's original ceiling wood. That's not like anything new. That's been there since the house has been built. That wood tends to absorb water very quickly and moisture. So my question mark there is like, okay, are we just having to replace a small corner pocket of the ceiling in the room, or are there other weak areas in the ceiling that I also have to replace just because the moisture condensation throughout the years that maybe it hasn't gotten through the way that room has, but it does look, like weak, and somebody, an inspector may want me to change it just because, it has a humidity moisture level on the radar or some BS like that. You tend to run in with that, like with these retail home buyers, because they're not buying cash. They're buying with very little money down. The lenders are lending behind them, and they have these rigid inspections that at any given time, one missed call could cost us $2 to $3 grand. And Linda, I'll tell you, I've seen worse where we've been really off on numbers, and we've been the ones that have to bite the bullet, because after we sign, after we put up our ADM, after we close, it's our headache. 100% our headache. There's no refunds on this. and just, I have a tight renovation budget on this as it is. I wish I had some more wiggle room, but I don't want to offend you. So I'm trying to make this a win-win to where, it'll work out for everybody. But I personally have to oversee the project. So it's just one of those things where I'm co-signing this, and I know because I went through something similar across the street, and I was wrong by $10,000. And I had people that ran off on me, um, deposits for contractors. I've had people that have fake insurances. They have fake licenses. They'll collect deposits, and you'll try to go after them in the court system, and that's another merry-go-round. So I'd have to be bringing some of the people from Orlando out there to actually be doing some of the things that I would trust them with, like the roof, the air conditioning, some of the things that I wouldn't feel comfortable hiring people I don't know.
I understand exactly what you're saying. Those are the same things I told you.
Yep.
I want people to do the work for us.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, the work that I know they did, I know was good work because they're people that I know and they're family people, and they still do work for me now in my home I have here.
Okay. Right.
So when I had the person to come in to do the electrical work for me, to check everything, they've been doing that for over 40 years. So I know what he put in and did was accurate.
Right.
The person that I had to do the floors, he just did floors for me in my home I live in now.
Right.
And the structures and of the house and everything, the same person that did my floors, they were out there the week before because he's an investor too, and he wanted the house too.
Right.
So it's in Jacksonville and he's here in Georgia.
Right.
So that's what he's looking at there.
Uh-huh. And I'll tell you, Miss Linda, the only part that I see that could really save, like, I'm still gonna have to replace the green carpeting. I'm gonna make that. I mean, you saw what I did to the house across the street. I tend to not cut corners and really give a really good finished product to whatever family is gonna move in there and raise their children. Um, because I mean that's what typically people that buy a 4-bedroom 2-bath. It's a family type buyer. So the bathrooms are going to be totally renovated. The kitchen, it's not going to look anywhere near the same at all. It's going to look like a total makeover. So I know you have to speak with your husband and get back to us with a decision. But if you were to get back to us tomorrow and let us know where you stand, again, I can have a $500 EDM sent out to the title company within 24 to 48 hours right after we get that addendum signed. And yeah, I look forward to, God willing, closing before the end of the month.
I'll speak with my husband on that, but like I said, we still have a balance that we have to pay on the house, and with the price that we did come up with, it seemed to be within reason, and I don't know if he will negotiate any at all, if he'll budge.
Right.
I will ask him and see because.
And I just hope that the points that I brought up to conversation, these are things that, again, on paper it looks so good. If I would have purchased this house without gone and go see it, I know I would have bit the bullet on a few things because I didn't see it in person and I didn't prepare myself in the construction budget. 30 grand spends very quickly on a property, especially when you're not the one there working every single day. You tend to hire professionals, and they're a minimum of $100 a day. So I just hope that my reasons for bringing up what I did were justifiable enough for you guys to really consider that. That it's not just I'm trying to pocket $8,000 more in my profit, because that's definitely not the case. That $8,000 is going to go into the property, you know, in a couple of different places that I'm just a little worried about, you know. But at the very least, get back to us with the very best option you guys have for us, to see if we will consider that and play ball.
Okay. Well, right now the ball is in my corner, and I don't know. I'll check with my husband, and I'll get back with you.
Yes, ma'am. We look forward to hearing from you tomorrow.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You like that?
Yeah, I crushed it.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like her reaction too, man. She wasn't like too like defensive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, we'll fucking split the cost 50-50.
And she knew it. And
She knew it. She said it. She was like, you know, I haven't seen the house in a while. I was like, well, $8,000 is a big difference here, Linda. I recorded that on my Mac, on my iMac, so I'll post that on YouTube later.
Oh, awesome.
Word. Yeah.
All
All right, bro. So God willing, she